Our public hearing and public utilities regarding rate increases in water and sewer. I'm Zach Klein, Chairman of Public Utilities. I'd like to acknowledge off the top Auditor Hugh Dorian, who has been instrumental in the Sewer and Water Advisory Board process, and I'd like to give Mr. Dorian, our esteemed auditor, the opportunity to make some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Klein. I would simply indicate that there's been a lot of diligence, a lot of study, a lot of hours of study and research that go into the recommendations of rate increases for water, sewer, storm sewer, and sanitary sewer. In my history of these rate increases and the recommendations, they are pretty modest, and you will hear more from the chairman of the Sewer and Water Rate Advisory Board. And I simply want to reiterate there's been much study and research goes into these recommendations, and I would ask Council to adopt these recommendations, and I would simply indicate my full support of the recommendations of the Sewer and Water Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Dorian, for those comments. For any public speakers, the option to speak is available. You can fill out a blue speaker slip and give it to one of my staff members, and then we can get you on the agenda to speak at the end of the presentation. The first person to speak is Ann Aubrey, the Deputy Director of Public Utilities.
Good afternoon, Chair Klein. On behalf of Director Davies, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present the proposed 2016 rates for the Department of Public Utilities. The department continues to place large investments in water line replacement as well as the water treatment plants. Additionally, the department has submitted the Blueprint Columbus plan to the Ohio EPA and is awaiting approval. If approved, construction of green infrastructure would begin in neighborhoods in 2016. Our proposed rates also continue to include a low income and a senior discount. We have Mr. Giffen here, Chair of the Water and Sewer Advisory Board, as well as Assistant Director John Lee, who will provide more details on our rate proposal tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Giffen? Let me publicly thank you for chairing the Sewer and Water Advisory Board, sir. We appreciate what you've done for the city and look forward to hearing your presentation.
Councilman Klein. Members of the Sewer and Water Advisory Board met with representatives from the Department of Public Utilities 5 times in 2015 to review and discuss the operations and project planning activities of the water, sewer, and stormwater enterprises. At our October 7th meeting, we reviewed proposed water, sanitary, sewer, and stormwater rates. The board approved the following rate recommendations effective January 1, 2016. For the fiscal year 2016, the board recommends an increase in sanitary sewer fees of 3%, water rates of 4%, and stormwater rates of 1%. When considered together, the bill impact on an average residential customer within the city of Columbus is 3.31%. Over the past few years, the board has been decreasing TKN extra strength charges and regular extra strength charges 10% per year for recommendations from our rate study. The board recommends no additional decreases in the 2016 to these charges. The board recommends continuing the surcharge within the sanitary sewer rates, known as the Clean River Fee, to support payment of expenses related to construction of projects mandated by the consent orders entered into to eliminate combined sewer and sanitary sewer overflows. This charge is based on measured impervious surface areas. The equivalent residential unit equals 2,000 square feet of impervious surface area, and each residential customer, both inside and outside the city, is billed 1 ERU per month. Commercial and industrial customers are charged based on actual measured impervious areas. The board also recommends continuing the low-income discount for water and sanitary sewer commodity charges at 20%. Low-income customers are defined as being at 150% of the federal poverty level or qualifying for a state low-income program. The Department of Public Utilities is continuing its outreach efforts to identify customers that have not taken advantage of the low-income program. Lastly, the board recommends no increase for sewer and water capacity charges for 2016. The board feels that the rate adjustments are fair and equitable and are necessary to provide the funding to support the day-to-day operations of the division, as well as continuing to support a critical and sizable capital improvement program within the Department of Public Utilities. As always, the board will work with the Public Utilities staff to ensure that future rate increases are minimized to the extent possible. If you or other City Council members have questions or wish to discuss any of these issues, feel free to contact me at the telephone number given. Any particular questions?
Thank you, Mr. Giffen, for your service. No questions, although I do want to highlight something that you mentioned, and that is the recognition of our discount programs for those that are at the poverty level and for seniors that are, I think that's important for us to keep in mind as we raise any rates, or whether it's rates or permit fees, whatever it may be, is that there are folks that are struggling to make ends meet. And while this is driven by the EPA and the investments that we need to make are reflected in the increases and the requirements of what we need to do to satisfy our consent decree, we need to be mindful that there are folks that are struggling to make ends meet, and that there are programs available to ensure that discounts are accessible to them. So I appreciate you recognizing that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is John Lee, the Assistant Director for Fiscal, the Department of Public Utilities.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to discuss our water, sewer, storm, and electricity rate adjustments. Our core function is to provide safe drinking water, treat wastewater, and deliver reliable electricity service. We do this each day with the leadership of our director, management, and dedicated staff. As you know, the utility has made significant investments over the past decade. We've constructed our Ores Tunnel, the Upground Reservoir, made significant improvements at our water treatment plants, as well as several neighborhood improvements. We've added street lights, made stormwater improvements to eliminate funding, and general water and sewer line upgrades. As Ann pointed out, we are very excited about our integrated plan known as Blueprint Columbus. This plan will allow us to meet our consent order requirements with less infrastructure by focusing on the problems of inflow and infiltration. As you know, all these services are funded solely from user fees. Rates are charged to cover the cost of these services for maintenance, personnel, supplies, equipment, and capital projects. We continue, as always, to be mindful how our rate increases ultimately affect our residential and commercial customers, and we work to keep our budgets low, monitor our spending, and seek operational efficiencies where we can. Meanwhile, we continue providing excellent customer service and work to maintain compliance with all EPA and US EPA licenses, permits, and requirements. A summary of our rate increases, as mentioned, an overall 4% increase for water, 3% for sewer, and 1% for storm. This will result in a 3.31% increase, and from a residential bill impact, residents will experience about $8.58 per quarter increase, or roughly $34 per year. Outside city residents will see a little bit higher, about 3.49% increase, and low-income residents lower at 3.29. As mentioned, all these rates will go into effect January 1st. We're also very proud that our combined water and sewer rates are currently lower than many of our local surrounding cities. On the low-income senior resident discount, a couple statistics for you. As of October 2015, we had over 4,000 single-family low-income participants, over 1,400 multi-unit low-income participants, and over 3,000 senior participants. And we continue our outreach efforts for those programs and discounts through billing inserts, social media, and at local community centers. Also notable, these rate increases will be applied to commercial and industrial customers and as well as our master meter communities. These rate increases will provide the needed revenue to meet all of our debt service obligations for our general obligation and revenue bonded debt, as well as our loan payments to the Ohio EPA for projects funded through the Ohio Pollution Control Fund. Some more information on the water charges and the water ordinance. We are estimating that the revenue will generate approximately $5.3 million annually in 2016. And these rate increases will not only cover our day-to-day operating expenses at our treatment plants, but allow us to continue making significant water line improvements of around $30 million a year and focus on our new program of ultraviolet disinfection improvements. Also in the water rate ordinance, we are proposing an amendment to Section 110507 of the City Code. This amendment would remove the reference to a 15% handling fee. Instead, we would calculate a new installation and/or handling charge based on actual employee salary costs to perform the wiring setup of the meter. Basically, these fees are a new development fee. That's when a new meter is bought for a new house or a new commercial property. Basically, we feel that this amendment will decrease the total fee across the majority of our meter sizes, and we estimate a negligible revenue loss, but will gain a more stable and equitable fee structure. On the sewer side, again, a 3% increase applied to the sewer service charge and the sewer commodity charge for both inside and outside residents, and the wet weather fee will also increase 3%. As mentioned, we are not increasing our sewer extra strength charges, and we estimate about $5 million in revenue from the 3%. These increases will allow the division to cover debt service payments for our Oars Tunnel project as well as past projects, and help to cover future anticipated debt for our upcoming Black Lick Tunnel project, which will serve the New Albany area, again, our Blueprint Columbus projects, and several more collection system projects. On the storm side, 1% increase, and this will be added to the equivalent residential unit, the ERU charge, and that will increase from $4.57 per month to $4.62 per month. And we estimate this will generate around $327,000 in revenue. These storm fees are only charged to the City of Columbus customers. Our outside city customers do not pay these stormwater charges. Finally, on our electricity rates, our ordinance authorizes rate adjustments and the creation of a new rate class for the Division of Power. We are proposing a decrease in our fixed service charge, also known as our customer charge, for our small commercial rate class and our general commercial rate class. This decrease would be 15%. Overall, there will be a revenue reduction, but would allow us to be more competitive with other private and public utilities and also retain our current commercial class customers. We're also requesting the establishment of a new customer class for premium service. This new class would have a 15% higher energy charge on the bill. The premium service class would be for a dedicated circuit that is not available to any other large customer. Currently, only our water and sewer treatment plants have this service, and it provides backup electricity and redundancy in the event of an outage. This premium class would not impact any residential or commercial customers currently. Overall, with these changes to the electricity rates, the net revenue impact to the Division of Power is estimated to be approximately $478,000. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation on the rates. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Lee. Do we have any speaker slips, Ms. James or Ms. Space? Auditor Dorian, do you have any questions? No, thank you. One question that I have is, could you please explain what sewer extra strength charges are? I understand that there are no increase being applied to sewer extra strength charges, but what are those? Or feel free to pass the buck on
I
to
can
anyone.
try this one.
Yeah.
Extra strength charges are distinguished from standard strength charges because of their higher wastewater discharge concentration. That's about the extent that I know about it, sir.
I can chime in
Blake.
further on that. So yeah, the extra strength charges go oftentimes to our industrial type customers. So basically, their sewage that they discharge into the sewer system has a higher concentration of pollutants in it, thereby meaning it has a higher cost to remove those pollutants at the treatment plant. So customers such as Anheuser-Busch, for instance, in their waste stream.
Got it. Thank you. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Lee. I appreciate that. And our final speaker is Rick Westerfield. He is the administrator for the Division of Water.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. I'd like to talk a little about our low-income and senior programs. We have proposed an ordinance. It's called 2635-2015, actually. It'll be retroactive to January 1st, 2015. And this deals with clarification of language in the city codes regarding low-income and senior discounts. There'll be no impact on the low-income and senior discount program that we've had in place for several years. To give a little more detail about that, the low-income program provides a 20% discount to low-income customers who meet certain criteria, and that amount is applied to the consumption charge. And I'll give an example of that in just a second here. The other part of this is the senior discount program, and that applies to seniors 60 years and older who meet the low-income requirements. And there is a 10%, or there is a discount applied to the customer service charge of those particular bills. Basically, the customer service charge is eliminated on those particular bills dealing with seniors. Regarding electricity, there is a 10% discount given on consumption charges for seniors. And I think that pretty much summarizes the discount program. But to give an example of this, people might be wondering, okay, well, what's that mean to me? For example, on a low-income program, if you're eligible only for the low-income program, your bill is approximately 85% of what it would be normally. If you're a senior low-income eligible customer, the bill is roughly 68% of what it would be normally. So that kind of gives you some perspective as to the impacts that these low-income programs can have on customers. And again, this ordinance is only to clarify language and to make the code consistent between the various enterprise funds. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So if you're listening to this and you're eligible for perhaps one of those programs, are there going to be any stress or concern amongst folks that are currently eligible that somehow with this reclassification that they're going to now be not eligible?
No, everybody's still eligible that was previously eligible. All we're doing is just clarifying code language or verbiage in the code, but all the discounts that applied in the past still apply.
So this is for a housekeeping piece of legislation so that seniors, low-income individuals, low-income seniors, if they're getting the discount, they can rest assured they're still going to get it and they should not be concerned about this particular piece of legislation.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Dorian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to indicate that when you're dealing with our utilities, and in particular sanitary sewer, you're dealing with a utility that is very, very highly capital-oriented. If you think of all the capital improvement money that the city has outstanding in the form of bonds, about 2/3 of it is water and sewer. So these good people from sanitary sewers, they spend a lot of money, but so much of it is underground, you never see it. If we put a capital improvement bond out for a park or a playground or a fire station, something of that nature, they're all visible. But these good people, in my view, and I've worked with so many of them over the years, you've got a good quality workforce there and very, very conscious of the costs to our ratepayers. So again, I very much recommend the adoption of the rates.
Thank you, Mr. Dorian. Gretchen or Gina, did we have any speakers? Okay. Well, that will conclude our hearing. I appreciate the diligence and the presentation from the individuals from the Department of Public Utilities, as well as Mr. Giffen for his service on the Sewer and Water Advisory Board. Thank you, sir, for your service to the city. Feel free to contact City Hall, contact my office, the Department of Public Utilities, if you have any questions or concerns about this. That concludes the hearing. Thank you.